So whether you're the CEO of an oil company planning a joint venture, or whether you're trying to agree with your partner about where to go for dinner, all of us negotiate something every day. There are many different types of negotiation, but we often imagine that a negotiation ends with a winner and a loser. As many of you know, there is a different type of negotiation. At CASA, we call this interest-based negotiation, but you may have also heard it referred to as principled negotiation. Creating a win-win solution is definitely a different way of thinking about negotiations, and sometimes you have to take a step back from the situation and look at it with fresh eyes. So this is why we are starting our morning with some unusual guests, some members of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra. Although we may not think about an orchestra as we figure out how to be successful in multi-stakeholder processes, I think an orchestra is a wonderful example of collaboration. I think this dynamic and collaborative exercise is the perfect way to start our day. Creativity is an essential skill for navigating our increasingly complex world. So hopefully this exercise gets your imaginations flowing and opens your minds for the rest of the day. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Anne Lewis to explain to you what we're about to do.
Thank you, Al. I'm so pleased to be here on behalf of the Calgary Philharmonic Orchestra. We present 80 live concerts each year to over 100,000 people to fit all ages and musical tastes, from the classical giants and rock and roll hits and family favorites. And we are a not-for-profit organization with a $12 million budget and operate from a very fiscally responsible model, and one of the very few orchestras in Canada without any debt. The orchestra's critically acclaimed artistic leadership, and we have with us today resident conductor Adam Johnson. He's responsible for interpreting the composer's vision for a piece of music, aligning anytime from 60 to 85 or more professional musicians to perform with one voice, and one that resonates with the audience, because that's a true measure of the communication. And he does it all with a baton, his eyes and a hand. The interface of musicians with the conductor is similar to the relationship between an organization and its leaders. Conductor may be viewed as a CEO or team leader, and an orchestra's instrument families may be business teams or units. Together, they find the best solutions and celebrate an effective outcome. It's our pleasure to invite you to participate and be part of the symphony activity, and to know that this is typically done in the concert hall, on stage in the musicians' places, looking out into the audience, the reverse perspective. It usually is about an hour and a half, and we really drill down into team and leadership skills. Now I turn this over to Maestro Johnson to lead you through the CASA Concerto.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's really a true pleasure to be with you this morning. We just had Pops in the Park last night, and great concert, and now to get together and to have a different symphony experience is going to be a lot of fun. As Anne mentioned, well, first of all, I just want to say I'm on stage here with Tim Rawlings, the principal percussionist of the CPO for the last 42 years, and Malcolm Lim, who is another percussionist. They're going to be helping me help you this morning in leading the exercise. Now, as Anne mentioned, we have on average about 70 musicians on stage for any given concert. And what makes an orchestra successful is really the diversity that we have on stage. The orchestra as it is today has been around for about 150 years, which is a pretty incredible thing when you think the orchestra remains relevant, is very involved in film music, and we still perform great classical masterpieces, but composers are still using the very same format that's been around for the last 150 years or so. And that is because it's achieved a balance through the diversity that's there. It's divided into four basic instrument groups. We have, of course, the largest are the strings, which range from the double basses, cellos, violas, and violins, which within each section, we have the very low end all the way up to the very high end. That is true also for the woodwinds, from the bassoons up to the flute and piccolo. Then we have the brass, from tuba up to trumpets, and then the percussion section. And each of these groups has an entirely different timbre, different character. But we have to all come together in order to interpret a piece of music and play thousands of notes per concert in unison, while having a group collaboration, but also highlighting the differences that go on. Now, my role as a conductor is a bit unique in that I'm a musician who doesn't make a single sound on stage. So why am I there? Well, to coordinate this large effort. Of course, we can't just show up on stage and have it magically work. We have to rehearse. And so a large part of my job is to run the rehearsal process, to bring everything together. Just from a practical standpoint, the reason I'm moving my hands in a pattern is that somebody who's at the back of the violin section, they can't hear what's going on the other side of the room, yet they have to play together with the person who's on the other side of the room. And so I become a central reference point. Also, each player has only their part. They don't know what everybody else is doing on stage. I have a score that has all 70 players' notes on it. And so I'm there to provide a central perspective for balance, to let one section know if they're playing too loud or not loud enough. It might sound very loud to them, but in the overall context, they need to do more, or they might think that they're playing at something that's not too loud, but given that they have a louder instrument compared to another instrument that they're playing at the same time as, I have to let them know, so that in the audience we end up with a balanced result. Now, all these musicians are highly, highly skilled. They could play without a conductor. But with 70 opinions as to how the music should go, we would end up with probably some dissonance in there. And so ultimately a decision has to be made as to what the composer's intentions were, and we have to be united under one vision for a particular performance. If you have a different conductor, the same piece of music is going to sound entirely different. I've been at, especially as a student, I was with the National Arts Centre Orchestra at one point for some training, and there were 6 conductors there. It was the same orchestra, but every time a different conductor got up, the personality of the orchestra changed entirely, which is an incredible thing. It's the same instruments, it's the same people, but the leadership that's there really influences a lot what the result is. So let's move on to getting you guys to make some music. To do so, I'd like to invite Tim to teach you a little bit about music.
Okay. So, well, thank you, Adam. My name is Tim Rawlings. I'm the percussionist in the orchestra. I'm celebrating my 42nd year with the CPO, and what a thrill that is for me. Yeah, thank you. Now, when I was 12 years old, I saw an orchestra play, and I went home and I said, Mom, I know exactly what I want to do. I want to play in an orchestra. And so I'm living the dream I had since I was 12 years old, and I still haven't changed my mind. If you ask me, what would you really like to do in life, I'd say, I want to play in an orchestra. So I'm just thrilled to be here today, and thrilled to be here in the afternoon for our rehearsal and tonight's concert and all of that. So it's a thrill for me to be here. Anyway, we need to talk about music. When I first went home and said, Mom, I want to play, well, she got in the Sears catalog and got me a snare drum, and it didn't last very long, but she got me one. And the first thing you learn, of course, is quarter notes, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Why don't you guys clap that with me? 1, 2, 3. Sure. And then if you double that, it becomes 8 notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Awesome. You guys got it. Now on this front table, this first row along here, you have some sheet in your table. So be getting out your sheets. Every table has one of these sheets in it, and you can pass those around, and you can look at your chart, and you're going to see some quarter notes here. Those are the ones with 1 stem, and the one with 2 stems are 8 notes. And so if you're in group 1 in this first row here, you have 1 and 2, 3, 4. Let's try that as a group right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3. Yeah. If the conductor, he may say, would you please emphasize 1? Then you'd go 1 and 2, 3, 4, et cetera, et cetera. Let's try group 2, which is the second row of tables, and I think a couple of tables in here, and you guys have 1, 2, and 3, 4. You got it. Group 3 is the back row of tables. Let's hear you guys. I need you real strong. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we need a group 4. Do you have a list of names of some people we want to invite up here?
Okay, that's right. Group 4, we're going to bring them up on
We need some
stage to join
solos.
us. So could Doug Dempster, Daniel Johnston, Celeste Dempster, and Norm MacLeod, could you please come join us on stage?
Yeah, come on. Hey, welcome. Yeah, welcome, Celeste. Okay, this is group 4. You guys are just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. See, they're hand-picked specialists, so it's a fix. Okay, so we got the group, we're organized. Now we need a conductor to bring something together here.
Sure,
Try it.
okay, perfect. So, as Ann mentioned, of course everybody knows, I use a baton when I conduct. Well, what this does is it's just simply an amplifier of my movement. If I move my hand, say a couple of inches up and down here, I mean, you can see it, but if I put a baton in and move it a couple of inches, it amplifies the motion at the end. Plus it's white, so just on a practical level, you can see it from a greater distance. And I often get asked, well, what are you doing when you're moving your arms? Is there a pattern? And there is. Now, as you noticed here, Tim said 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So in this case, we're doing a 4-beat measure. Okay, or a measure or a bar, they're synonymous terms. But so then if a piece is in 4, as this one is going to be, what I do is I go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 is always down, 2 goes in, 3 goes out, 4 comes back. And so that way, while the players are playing, they have in their peripheral vision the pattern. And so also not everybody's playing at every moment in a big piece of music, so they can be counting bars, and then I'm there as a marker and to cue them when they are meant to join in to the ensemble. So, as you noticed, each one of the groups has the 8th notes at a different time. Group 1 has them on the first beat, Group 2 on the second beat, Group 3 on the third beat, Group 4 on the fourth beat. And the idea here is to be able to collaborate and get so that we feel a constant stream of 8th notes circulating around the room. So, I'm going to start. I'll give you 1 bar for nothing, and then when I cue you all in, you do your part, and let's see if we can get those 8th notes going around, okay? So, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. 2, 3, 4, done. Okay, very well done. Great. Now, let's work on some balance things here. Group 1, I'm not hearing really all that loud. I think you're outnumbered a little bit, but you might have to clap a little bit. Let's try something. Let's only do the 8th notes. So, you won't do the quarter notes when it's your turn. Only do the 8th notes, and that way we'll really hear the balance in the room. So, here we go once again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. So now your ears are locked into that 8th note thing. So let's clap the 8th notes really loud, but the quarter notes softer. So go back to the original exercise of 8th notes with the quarter notes, but do the quarter notes nice and soft and the 8th notes louder. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Give yourselves a round of applause. Very well done. Now, we are going to elaborate this a little bit. We're going to move in to some samba rhythms. So I'm going to turn it back over to Tim, and you'll notice you have some instruments, so he will let you know what to do with that.
Thanks, Adam. This is a snare drum. It's not really used in samba very much, sometimes, but it's the first instrument you learn when you're a drummer, and so this was the first one I got. I still love it the best. It's my favorite one. There's snares on the bottom. You can turn the snares off. You can get that. Normally you use 2 sticks, and you get the... Now, the reason I dropped the stick is in Brazil, they use 1 stick and 1 brush. Normally you see a guy with 2 brushes and he's playing some jazz. And in Brazil, somebody who had dropped a stick went, what do I do? He came up with the idea of, hey, 1 stick and 1 brush. And that's where samba really got started, and they're doing a... And some guy came along and went, hey, I can add the heartbeat. So Malcolm's playing the surdo, big drum. Yeah, awesome. And that's, so the idea of samba is relax, have fun. And there's a bunch of instruments on your table. We're going to demonstrate them. And you can play any instrument you got and join with it. If you don't have an instrument, you can there's some utensils on your table. And I promise not to take these home, by the way. You can get a couple of spoons and you can do that. You can put them together. No, you don't have to do that. Okay, so first instrument. Do we have any tambourines out there? Hold up your tambourine. In Brazil, you don't just, it's not a rock and roll instrument where you're just going, you see that all the time, in the 60s anyway. In Brazil, the kids there, they play it more like a drum set. They're holding their fingers on the back, they use their thumb and they'll. So you guys can do that, right? Oh, no. So if you have this, if Malcolm and I are getting the samba groove going, we're going dum chicka dum, you can go. Try it. We're doing well, we're doing well. Then if you have a cowbell on your table, or if you have 2 of them together, which are called a go-go bells once you have 2 of them, but if you have a cowbell, you can go the George, 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 George of the jungle. And you go. Hey, yeah, we should have you up here. That was good. In fact, are you free New Year's Eve? Oh, never mind. All right. If you have one of these things, some of them look like a fish, and they're called a guiro, and they hollow out the gourd and put rivets in it so you can get the... Or you can play... I always tell I have 5 daughters, and I always tell them that's what they sound like when they're all on the cell phone at the same time. But anyway, guiro. Hold on to that. Okay, if you have a shaker, some of them are those little eggs, shaker eggs, and some of them are just shakers. There's a bunch of them on the table, and you can 1, 2, 3. If you want to get real fancy, you can try not to drop it on the floor like I do, but anyway, there's that. There's the lowly triangle. The reason I say lowly is in the opera the other night, I had 238 bars rest, 1 triangle note, and then more rest. And I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3. Well, I got to about bar 80, and I'm going, was that 80 or 70? And then, of course, you start to sweat, because you know the conductor's going to be furious if you miss it. And so I'm standing there going, well, hey, yeah, well, this sounds like it. And you play your 1 note, and it can be 1 note in 1,000, but it's where you place it, the color, you match it with the strings, that this is still exciting to me, just to play that 1 note. I go thrilled. And in Brazil, they get rid of the clip, They put their finger on the back, and you hear this in a lot of Latin music. You'll hear the. So feel free to try that with your triangle. Put your finger, yeah. Hey, that's it, that's it. Let's try it. Where are the triangle players? Do we have some out there? Yeah, let's try that. Oh, there's one on the table that no one's using. I see that, yeah, okay. All right, there's the triangle. Claves, or if you got two pieces of wood there, and there's a lot of sticks around, if you get two of them, you can play that together, and you go shave, haircut, 2 bits. Or shave, haircut, $30. What is it now? Yeah. Let's try that. Shave, haircut, 2 bits. Yeah. You seen something you like yet? We're saving Norm for the cymbals, by the way. He told me he plays guitar, so I can't let him play something. We got to give you the good one. All right. Hand me something else here. What else we got? A ratchet, which is the sound effect you see in cartoons all the time when the guy bends over and it sounds like his back is going. They do that. And you hear this in the Nutcracker every year when you go to that. Well, this is what's being used every time they're cracking the nut on the stage. That's what you get. It's called a ratchet. So if there's any of those out there, then, the paper bag. There's a couple of these on every table. So a couple of guys, you need to grab these, or gals, grab these. And when we're all playing the samba together, if he raises his hand like this, which he will towards the end, then you blow it, and randomly at liberty, you pop your bag. And that'll be the climax of the piece, so that'll be the most fun. I won't demonstrate the pop. We don't need that yet. Okay, for the cymbals, Norm, we were wondering if you'd like to put your head inside. Would you like me to demonstrate this? All right, here you go.
Why do I feel like I've been there before?
Yeah, you could do that, or you can just pinch him. Yes. Okay, so in this group up here can be a soloist group if we have time. How are we doing on? We may be taking solos. So everyone's playing the groove and the samba, and if he points to us, these guys may lay out, and he may have us solo. So you're going to be thinking, well, here's my groove, but then you got to do something different for your solo. And in our group, we'll be playing 1, 2. Let's try it. Let's see what we sound like. 1. Let me get a stick. Come on over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I will be using Norm on New Year's Eve. I'll let you know where we're playing. Okay. So we're ready. Let's hear what you guys sound like with the samba, Malcolm. And normally you hear 3-note pickup, ba-dum-bum, and then everyone's in. Play that.
1, 2, 3.
Awesome. Well, I need you guys to be louder. The trick in samba is you can never make a mistake. And the only mistake you can make is not have fun. If you're not having fun, then you're not playing samba. So you got to, hey, I got to get in this groove and fit in. So let's try it again. 1,
2. 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Maestro, we're ready for a conductor.
Sounds amazing, everyone. Actually, just before we start, I'd like to do something without the rhythm section. I'd like you to have just everybody play your instruments at random. I want you to hear what it sounds like if everybody's just going for it on their own without any sort of rhythm behind it. So, go. Right. Okay, so now that's chaos, right? And what happens, rhythm, now music is made up of sounds of different pitches, right? Higher and lower. But the rhythm is what comes together and organizes it so that it has a structure and so that it starts to make sense. And so let's do essentially what we just did with these guys. Okay, let's bring the rhythm back. Try to remember the rhythms that he had taught you and make up your own and have fun with it. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Very, very good. Okay, now, everybody was playing there about the same level, right? In music, we have dynamics. That means sometimes we play louder, sometimes we play softer. And a conductor's left hand will generally indicate that. If I go like this, what does it mean? Yes, exactly. And if we go like this, it means to get louder, okay? And now, that can happen for the whole ensemble. It can also happen for certain groups, right? So we can have one group that takes more or less a solo while everybody else is still playing. Sometimes in the orchestra, everybody will drop out and you have just one instrument out of the 70 going. Other times you'll have an accompaniment. That means basically people are playing softly, but that one soloist plays over top of that accompaniment. So watch me now. I'll bring us through some dynamic exercises, and then I'll call out group numbers. And when I call out your group number, everybody else play softer. The group that I call out play louder, okay? So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now, group 1, take your solo. Let's go. Can we do group 2 now? Group 3. And group 4. No, and now, lots of triangle, lots of triangles. Lots of guiro. Lots of cymbal. All right, how about you guys? Let's go. Excellent. Well done, everyone. Bravo. Now, I realized I forgot one thing. We didn't get the paper bags in there.
Yeah, get them ready.
Okay, so let's do another round. I'm going to put my arm up, blow out the bags, and then let her rip. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. Bravo, everyone. Wonderful job. So, just a few things that I wanted you to notice. As we highlighted the different groups, the sound changed, didn't it? Based on the composition of the instruments that you had. Some people had higher instruments, others had a little bit lower. The sound, but also the number of players that we had also, changes things. But really, it's the goal for us in an orchestra is to come together in order to create a product that ultimately moves people. The composer gives us a vision as to how the music how he wants it to sound, while the conductor then interprets that vision, brings it forward to the musicians, and then the musicians, during a concert, give it their best, and with the goal of moving an audience, and everybody leaving having had a great time and having accomplished something really worthwhile. Thank you for having had us this morning. It's been a real pleasure, and wish you a fantastic rest of the day. Thank you. And bravo to our soloists.
guys.
Bravo, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Norm. Gotcha.
I think I'm missing Carol, who's going to help me up here, but I will start. But thank you very much for participating in this. And you know what I do notice in this group, it's just a riveted attention. And the smiles, that kind of warms you up for the day. When we do this on stage, we bring out the, you know, kind of the analogies of our principals, who are the team leader for a section. And once we are going through the exercise, we're very much aware of watching for informal leadership that arises during these occasions. And we do call on people in these groups during the exercise to do solos as well. It's really quite interesting to see who steps up, and maybe someone who's reticent at the beginning, but you know, music is a medium that allows people to, you know, express themselves in different ways. And it's interesting how at the end of a session you will see some people that have been a little bit quiet or more reserved, and how much their colleagues look at them with new eyes. So it's quite an amazing exercise to go through. And you know, in an hour and a half, as I say, we drill down into the team building and the leadership. You know, as our resident conductor, Adam, has said, we work with a baton. And each baton has a different name for the company that produces it, and this one is a trophy. And as I was observing today, I was watching different participants, but there's one in particular that not only played the instrument, but got his whole body into playing the instrument. And I would like to recognize him, and he is sitting right down here. And you are the one up there moving your body. I can't see well from up here. There he is. There he is over there. Sorry, it's the light. Come on up. Sorry, you do not see anything from up here. I'm going to pass the baton to you, Doug. And to actually, during your conference today, there may be someone else that you would like to pass the baton on to. Quickly? But when doing so, to tell them why you're passing it on. It may be something they've contributed, or you've known them for a long time. It may be the first time, but pass the baton during the day to say, thank you for participating, thank you for what you do, thank you for that comment, or facilitating this whole session. So during the day, it'd be interesting to know at the end of the day who ends up with the baton, but it is a trophy and kind of a tribute to this group. So we so appreciate being part of this, and thank you for, that was quite a wiggle. And I see Carol. And also, we have on your tables just a high-level overview of this program, which we do sell to corporations and have had many on our stage. And hope you will consider that from a real corporate team-building leadership to something fun and celebratory. And of course, our new season, well, we have 2 concerts left this weekend and next. We have a whole season starting in September, and highlights on the back of this page. So, now, Carol, do you want to add anything else to these comments here? But I thank you so much. So.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing way to open our day. Adam and Anne are both available to answer some questions if you would like. We have a few minutes. So does anybody have any questions about what it takes to make these amazing collaborations happen?
Or Tim.
Actually,
I see a question in the back there.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very enjoyable. But Adam, I wondered how you decide what the composer had in mind. I've heard this before, that people are interpreting. How do you decide what the composer had in mind for that piece of music?
It's a very good question, and there's a lot of elements at play. And it is called interpretation because there's definitely more than one way that things can be done. Certainly with each composer, part of your education as a musician is to learn the particular styles of that composer, and those are based on historical time period. Somebody who composed in the 18th century versus the 19th century, and composed in Italy versus Germany versus the US or Canada has a different cultural climate and different styles. So you become sensitive to those styles eventually. And their particular way of writing down the notes. The composer gives you a score. He's written it down, but the score is a bit like taking a picture of a Formula One. You see cars, you see that it's a race, but it's not alive yet, it's not moving. And so I have to interpret these black dots. Well, a quarter note is a quarter note, but it can be a certain length, it can be a certain loudness, and the composer gives you as many indications as he can. Well, at least later composers do. Back in the Baroque period, classical period, there's almost nothing written besides just the rhythm and the note, and so you have to decide how loud, how soft, how fast, how short, how long, what the emphasis is. And in a score, there's many moving parts, and so you can choose to bring out certain parts more than others based on what you think works. And so some composers are a little bit more vague, some composers are very specific and particular about what they want. So that's, but even those that are very particular, they give you exactly the metronome marking, which means exactly how fast it should go, and they have nearly every note notated as to exactly what should happen. Well, it's still, there's every acoustic, every group will sound different. And so if it's a very live space, for example, very boomy, and you take a very fast tempo, well, things are going to get jumbled together. So in a very live church, you tend to take a tempo a little bit slower. But if you're in a theater where it's very dry, things are going to sound disparate with more space than intended by the composers. So then you can take things a little bit quicker to fill that space. So there's tons of things that go on. A lot of it is planned. A lot of it is just reacting to the moment and adjusting as you go. So. Are there
any other questions? Oh, I see another one at the back there.
Great introduction to this morning. I'm just wondering what kind of characteristics make for a great conductor?
I'll start that. Adam is in his first year of a residency, and so we have a music director who is a very accomplished conductor and takes years and years of honing a skill. Adam is in a kind of a training program so that we can help him launch his career going forward. And for Adam, he comes with a PhD in this training, starts right at the bottom level in conducting. We are so excited to have him here. He goes through a process of, we go out for a request for resident conductors to join our orchestra, and then he goes through a rigorous audition and interview process. We chose Adam. He's here from Alberta, Hinton, Alberta. That's a great find for us. And very pleased with his, I know he's going to go on and have a fabulous career, but maybe Adam could add to that.
Well, thank you, Anne. Yeah, it's a bit of a nebulous thing. There is the technical level, which is just how clear are you? How well can a group follow your instruction? But there are exceptions that confirm that rule. A lot of the greatest conductors are, in fact, very ambiguous in what they do. But they conduct with a very clear intention. And I think that's really what sets great conductors apart from mediocre ones or bad ones, is the clarity of intention. When you arrive at the rehearsal or at the concert, the vision that the conductor has and the quality of that vision is number one. And then number two, their ability to transmit that to the orchestra. A great conductor who recently died, Claudio Abbado, was somebody who was famous for hardly saying anything in rehearsal. and he didn't do much with much energy, and it just kind of was there. But when it got to the performance, he really came alive, and he led with his state, he led with his energy, and he set the example for the musicians as to what the standard was going to be. And so the musicians rose to that, and then they loved him for it. Just a few weeks ago, the Berlin Philharmonic did an entire concert in homage to Abbado, and there was a podium with a rose on it, and they did the concert with no conductor, which I just thought was a beautiful testament to what he was able to bring to them, essentially to take them from, to be able to take an orchestra from wherever they are and to bring an inspiration, to bring an energy, which then gets transmitted to the audience. And there's a very real process of transmission of energy in a concert. So I would say that's really the most key thing is the vision that a conductor can bring. Thank you for the question.
Thanks. If anybody has one last question, we have a couple of minutes left. I see one right over there.
So Adam, I don't know if you realized that I wasn't playing with the beat, and at points it was random. What do you do with your musicians who cannot perform the vision that you have for your concerts?
Well, at the professional level, that happens very rarely. Well, actually, I should say, there's two things. Now, as you know, when you have a student orchestra, you have to really teach them the rhythms. You have to teach them the notes. You have to do a lot of work to get it together. A professional orchestra, you run through that piece, it's already together. And if there was anything that went wrong, if you just did nothing but run through it again, it would be there. Now, the challenge is how to get that really special level, right? And that's kind of always a work in progress. And you could do the same program several nights in a row, and some nights will really feel alive, other nights might not feel so good. But that doesn't mean that that's the experience that the audience had. I've definitely had it where I've been really happy about a performance, and I seem to be the happiest one with it. I've had other ones that I just thought were a total mess, and then people were, that was really something. So that's a variable thing, but within a group, I have had experiences in the rehearsal, even with the Calgary Philharmonic, where we say these people are highly trained, highly skilled. They have decades of training, and they've all gone through this rigorous audition process. And so they have a very strong opinion as well about what they do. I'm not an expert in their instrument. They are, right? And sometimes somebody can disagree with something going on. We once had an instance where there was an electronic instrument, the keyboard, that was doubling another instrument which had a much softer sound. And the player who was doing that got very frustrated and said, "I don't even know why I'm playing. Nobody can hear me." And she says this in a rehearsal, and the room goes dead quiet. And this was only my second concert with the orchestra. And so then I said to her, well, we can hear you. This acoustic sound that you're bringing would be missing if it wasn't there. Now, let's see if we can work on the balance to bring the other one down so that we can come to some sort of agreement here. So conflict does arise. There's 70 personalities in the room. Some are bigger than others, right? And so we have to, I definitely have a management position there as well, in the sense of managing the states, making sure that people feel that they're contributing. Because that's really what she was saying, was that she's doing her best and she feels it's not meaning anything. And so I acknowledged her work and tried to arrange it so that she could feel the contribution that she wanted to give.
And I'll just add, and with some of our guest conductors and our music director, I have seen that conductor, one of those conductors, look at a musician when there was something that was not exactly what the conductor wanted. They would find you with their eyes. There'd be a little discussion somewhere in there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a live process, and everybody is human, and at whatever level there is, things go sometimes not as planned, and that can be for better or for worse. And so you take the happy accidents and you take the unhappy accidents as well. So, yeah.
So, 70 people in the room, all with big personalities. Does that sound familiar to anybody else? That was a great question because I really liked what you said about that you are not the expert in everybody's instruments, and that's exactly how our multi-stakeholder processes work. Everybody that comes to the table brings their own expertise and has their own piece to contribute to the puzzle, and each of them are really important, and we need each of them to make the full picture. So I think that led to a great parallel.